On April 7, 2025, Republican Congressman Tim Burchett of Tennessee made what may be the most extraordinary public statements ever uttered by a sitting member of the United States Congress. Speaking on the Benny Show podcast, Burchett stated plainly that a government source, someone he described as credible and in a position to know, had confirmed to him that extraterrestrial beings have not only visited Earth, but have made direct contact with humans. He went further. He alleged that people have died in connection with secretive government programs tied to this extraterrestrial presence. These are not the words of a fringe figure shouting into the void. Burchett sits on the House Oversight Committee. He co-led the July 2023 Congressional hearing on UAPs that featured testimony from decorated military officers and intelligence community whistleblowers. He has subpoena power. He has access. So the question isn't whether this sounds extraordinary. It does. The question is whether the architecture of evidence around him supports it. To evaluate the claim, you have to evaluate the man. Tim Burchett has represented Tennessee's 2nd Congressional District since 2019. He's a conservative Republican, known for a plain-spoken style that sometimes catches Washington off guard. He is not a member of the Intelligence Committee. He is not a scientist, but he has become one of the most persistent congressional voices on the UAP issue. And that persistence matters. Burchett was instrumental in organizing the July 26, 2023 House Oversight Subcommittee hearing where former intelligence officer David Grusch testified under oath that the U.S. government possesses non-human biologics and craft of non-human origin. That hearing was a watershed moment. Burchett, alongside Representatives Anna Paulina Luna and Jared Moskowitz, has repeatedly pushed for broader hearings and declassification. His critics note he sometimes speaks loosely, mixing verified intelligence community claims with personal speculation. His supporters argue that his willingness to say publicly what others whisper privately is precisely what disclosure demands. Both things can be true simultaneously. Let's be precise about Burchett's April 7th statements, because precision matters here. Burchett told host Benny Johnson that a source inside the government, whose identity he did not reveal, confirmed 3 specific things. First, that extraterrestrials have visited Earth. Second, that direct contact between extraterrestrials and humans has occurred. Third, that deaths are connected to the government programs surrounding this phenomenon. On the question of contact, Burchett stated, quote, "They've made contact. That's been confirmed to me by people who are in a position to know." He did not elaborate on the nature of this contact, whether it was communication, physical interaction, or something else entirely. On deaths, he was less specific but equally direct, referencing what he called a pattern of people associated with these programs dying under circumstances that warranted scrutiny. He stopped short of alleging murder, but the implication was unmistakable. He offered no documentary evidence during the interview. This is important to acknowledge. Burchett's claims do not exist in isolation. They arrive within an escalating pattern of similar assertions from credible figures. In June 2023, David Grusch, a former National Reconnaissance Office representative to the UAP task force, told Congress under oath that the U.S. possesses intact, non-human craft and that people have been harmed or killed in efforts to conceal these programs. Grusch filed a formal whistleblower complaint with the Intelligence Community Inspector General, who found his claims credible and urgent. In May 2024, retired Colonel Karl Nell, a former Army officer who served on the UAP task force, stated publicly at the Sol Foundation Symposium that non-human intelligence exists, something is here, and this is not a matter of opinion. Nell called it a zero-doubt conclusion. Former AATIP director Lou Elizondo published his book Imminent in August 2024, alleging government retrieval programs and biological evidence. Each of these individuals has a distinct background. Each arrived at overlapping conclusions. Burchett appears to be channeling information from within this same network, or a parallel one. Words on a podcast are one thing. Legislation is another. Burchett has been a vocal advocate for the UAP Disclosure Act, originally championed by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Mike Rounds in 2023. That bill, which would have established an independent review board with eminent domain authority over recovered materials, was significantly gutted in the final 2024 National Defense Authorization Act after intense lobbying, reportedly from defense contractors and elements within the Pentagon. In early 2025, Burchett and allies began pushing renewed whistleblower protection provisions. The goal? To create a legal safe harbor for individuals inside classified programs to come forward to Congress without fear of prosecution, career destruction, or worse. This legislative effort is arguably more significant than the podcast claims. If Burchett genuinely believes people have died in connection with these programs, then creating legal protections for witnesses isn't just policy. It's a moral imperative in his framework. The legislation tells you what the words mean to him. He's not performing outrage. He's building infrastructure for testimony. Skepticism here isn't just appropriate, it's necessary. Burchett has not named his source. He has not produced documents, photographs, or physical evidence. His claims rest entirely on the authority of his position and the assertion that someone credible told him something extraordinary. In journalism, that's a starting point, not a conclusion. There is also the political dimension. UAP disclosure has become, for some members of Congress, a brand. It generates media attention, podcast appearances, and grassroots enthusiasm. This doesn't mean Burchett is being dishonest, but it means the incentive structure must be acknowledged. Conversely, Burchett has shown consistency over multiple years. His positions haven't shifted with political wins. He's challenged members of his own party when they've blocked transparency efforts. He expressed visible frustration when the Schumer-Rounds legislation was weakened, calling the process corrupt. That sustained commitment, at political cost, is itself a data point. The honest assessment: we cannot verify his claims with current public evidence. But we also cannot dismiss a sitting congressman's assertions when they align with sworn testimony from intelligence community officers. The most disturbing element of Burchett's claims involves deaths connected to UAP programs. This deserves careful treatment. David Grusch also alleged in his 2023 testimony that people had been harmed or killed in efforts to maintain secrecy around retrieval programs. Investigative journalist Ross Coulthart has reported similar allegations from multiple sources. None of these claims have been independently verified through public documentation. Historically, the UFO research community has pointed to cases they consider suspicious. Scientists, military personnel, and investigators who died under contested circumstances. These cases are often circumstantial and difficult to evaluate decades later. What's new is that these allegations are now being made by individuals with security clearances, under oath or informal complaints, and echoed by elected officials with oversight authority. That represents a qualitative shift. It doesn't prove the allegations, but it moves them from conspiracy forums into the domain of congressional inquiry, where tools like subpoenas, classified briefings, and Inspector General investigations can theoretically be applied. If even partially true, the implications are staggering, not just for disclosure, but for the rule of law. There is a growing fault line in Washington between the official narrative and the congressional one. The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, released its historical review in March 2024, concluding that it found no verifiable evidence of extraterrestrial technology in U.S. possession. Multiple whistleblowers and congressional members immediately challenged the report as incomplete and compromised. Grusch stated he was never interviewed for the review. The Inspector General opened an investigation into AARO's former director, Sean Kirkpatrick, over the report's methodology. Burchett's April 2025 claims land squarely in this gap. On one side, you have the executive branch's official position. Nothing to see here. On the other, you have multiple members of Congress, decorated military officers, and intelligence community veterans saying the opposite, some under oath. This is not a normal policy disagreement. This is two branches of government operating from fundamentally incompatible versions of reality. One of them is wrong, and the mechanisms to determine which one, classified briefings, SCIF sessions, Inspector General reviews, operate largely in the dark. The trajectory is clear, even if the destination isn't. The House Oversight Committee has signaled further UAP hearings in 2025. Multiple pieces of disclosure legislation are being drafted or reintroduced. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence has held classified briefings that participants have described as deeply troubling, though details remain classified. Burchett himself has indicated he intends to push for public hearings where his source or sources can testify with legal protection. Whether that materializes depends on legislative progress, political will, and the willingness of individuals inside classified programs to step forward. The broader picture: we are watching a slow-motion confrontation between secrecy and accountability. It may take years, it may stall, but the information asymmetry, where a handful of unelected officials control what Congress and the public are allowed to know about a potentially civilization-altering reality, is becoming politically untenable. Burchett's claims are a symptom of that tension. Whether they prove to be accurate, exaggerated, or somewhere in between, they represent a point of no return in the conversation. A sitting congressman has said on the record that we are not alone, and that people have died keeping it secret. There is a principle in epistemology: extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. That standard has not been met, not by Burchett, not by Grusch, not by anyone in the public domain. But there is another principle, less often quoted: the absence of public evidence is not the same as the absence of evidence, particularly when the evidence in question is allegedly classified at levels above most congressional oversight. What we have is a pattern: sworn testimony, formal whistleblower complaints deemed credible by inspectors general, legislation drafted to protect future witnesses, and now a sitting congressman stating plainly that extraterrestrials have been here and that people have died because of it. The responsible position is neither belief nor dismissal. It is sustained, rigorous attention. Because if Tim Burchett is right, even partially, then everything changes. And if he's wrong, the process of proving that will itself illuminate how deeply broken the relationship between secrecy and democracy has become. Either way, the question demands an answer.